So what'd you guys? Let's start off with Danny. That was a joke. You guys. Danny.
Yeah. He can go age before beauty. He can start.
All right.
Oh, great.
Danny Kelly.
Yeah.
One of my good friends in this media landscape. What did you think of the Patriots draft overall?
Look, I'm not just pandering. It was actually my highest graded class of every team.
There we go.
All right.
I really liked what you guys did from start to finish. Basically, it was, you got several starters. I think you had 6 players that were in my top 100, which was more than any other team. Every time I looked up, it felt like you guys were taking a player that I liked. So, just overall, I thought you guys, and by you guys, I mean the Patriots. You're not on the team.
We would have taken 7 guys in the top 100, obviously. That is the main difference here. Not our employer, right. Just how we would have drafted based on your board.
Yeah. I'd like to think our Herald previews really, was a blueprint for the Patriots.
For
strategy.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like, Trayvon Henderson, one of my favorite players in this draft. Kyle Williams has been, a big riser over the last month or two. Jared Wilson, I was hoping the Seahawks would take him. I'm a Seahawks fan. So yeah, every time I looked up, like I said, it seemed like you guys were taking a player I liked.
Danny Heifetz, what do you think of the class?
I hate the Patriots. I hate your success, and I thought you guys did awesome. So I'm truly not pandering at all. I am genuinely upset because I think the Patriots did fantastic, and it feels like a rebirth of sorts. And I kind of like when the Phoenix was ashes, but this feels like a regrowth.
What Danny Heifetz was the most interesting thing? Like you could take this favorite pick, least favorite pick, or just a fit, a timeline, a trade, something they didn't do. Like the most interesting thing about what happened adjacent to the Patriots.
I think the most interesting thing was just seeing how much a vision worked. There's just the continued string of competence and a vision of just the stack them together. I'm like, oh my God, Kyle Williams, the first Patriots receiver that can separate post-COVID. And then the left tackle gets up and is like, I'll die for Drake May. And then Travion Henderson is your fastest player since Randy Moss. That's good. No offense to Tyquan Thornton. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to work. And the slow realization that this is going to work was interesting is the wrong word. Horrifying, really.
We got a comment from our friend Benjamin Solak. Tell Heifetz to put on the hoodie and tie, please.
I did. Schefter and I wore the same stuff in the first round. It was such a weird coincidence. Yeah.
Was it stitched together? I didn't know that was a thing until we were talking about this on the radio last week. Was he wearing the stitched together hoodie with the jacket?
So Schefter, he wore a blazer of some sort with a suit and tie. Yeah. But between the jacket and the suit and tie was a blue hoodie, a classic blue light thin hoodie thing, between, as if he was the only one cold on the set. It was, I don't know why. And then randomly I did that too. It's, what are the odds?
What are the odds? Danny Kelly, did you have a least favorite pick from the Patriots class? You might have to go a little bit far down the line, but there were some head scratchers down at the end, I'd have to say.
How about we just combine the fact they took a kicker and a long snapper? Yeah. I thought we were past this. I thought that we were done with this. We have to deal with this every year. I'm going to be honest. I didn't scout. I didn't use kickers and long snappers in my draft guide. So they're probably very great people, great football players. But it just it felt like the legacy of Bill Belichick lived on in this draft. They had to add in the kicker and the long snapper at the end there.
It is funny because I'm so dulled by Bill Belichick drafts where he drafted a kicker in the 4th round once. He drafted Joe Cardona in the 5th round. He drafted Jake Ingram, another long snapper, in the 6th round. So when they took a long snapper at 251, I was like, hey, this is pretty normal. This is and then for everyone else, they were like, what
great value.
Imagine being Kobe Minor, the guy who was Mr. Irrelevant to them, being looking at the board and being wait, they were looking at long snapper and me, and they chose long snapper. That's kind of tough.
The funniest quote, and it was unintentional, and I'm not saying this to trash Elliott Wolf by any means, but the funniest quote in Patriots draft press conferences was Elliott Wolf being like, yeah, we thought he was the best long snapper on the board. I would hope so. Since you drafted the guy in the 7th round, I hope you weren't picking off the 5th long snapper on your board there.
Magic Johnson's quote.
I will say, to beat a dead horse, drafting kickers is stupid. In any round, there's literally they've done studies on this. There's no difference in quality between drafted kickers and undrafted kickers. Drafted kickers never do well for their team, almost never. They always catch on with the 2nd or 3rd team and are good then. Also, some of the best kickers in the NFL came from the USFL and the XFL, Brandon Aubrey and Jake Bates. They're kickers. They grow on trees. I don't really understand.
They grow in Europe. All the soccer players.
You mentioned the 5th-ranked long snapper because that's exactly where Ashby was on Dane Brugler's board. I don't know what Dane's doing that none of us else are, but among those things is studying long snappers and ranking them. I didn't mind the kicker pick, to be honest, just because it felt like there was a big gap per people that knew more than I did between Andres Borgalis, who missed just 1 field goal last year and can kick into the 60s, and everybody else. So if you're a team that's like been through, hey, we drafted the guy who was a sneaky white supremacist, and by sneaky I mean he had a tattoo that kind of told you in 2020, and then Chad Ryland, whose mechanically changed immediately, and then when he got back to his old mechanics was good in Arizona. Like, just take the guy, make sure he's normal, and then put him on the field and let him do his thing. Like, they need that now because I don't call me crazy. Are they in the playoff conversation? Are they encroaching now? This goes to either of you.
I think you could include them as like a potential contender for sure. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the theme that I really recognized, especially early on, was I think their first 4 picks were players that are going to immediately help Drake May, which I think is just so smart. That's exactly what they should be doing. They spent a lot of money in free agency on the defense. They basically hedged on that side of the ball so they can really focus on building around Drake May for the long term. I don't know if it's going to like all come together in year 1 for them, but I think, obviously grabbing Campbell in the first round, he's going to protect Drake May. Grabbing Henderson in the second round, he's going to protect Drake May. Grabbing Williams in the third round, hopefully he'll get open for Drake May and therefore protect him, get him a guy that he could get the ball out quickly. Just because, it just seems like last year, every time I looked up watching the Patriots, it was just Drake May getting clobbered or scrambling or whatever, so this way they can kind of, run their offense a little more smoothly. And then Jared Wilson, like I said, was a guy that I kind of had my eye on. He was like one of the best centers in this class. It was not a very deep center class, but he's got a ton of upside, athletic. I think he needs a little more experience probably, but the sky's the limit with that guy just because of the way he can move. And, so overall, just they came out with the exact right idea: protect the franchise quarterback.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, with Jared Wilson, it seems like best positions at center. Ellie Wolf did say potentially they could have him play some guard. I don't love that idea. I think I prefer to have him just continue snapping the ball. But Danny Heifetz, this could go for the Patriots. This could go for the entire league. What was the dumbest thing you saw this weekend?
The dumbest thing? Oh, dude, one of these teams took a kicker and a long snapper. that was crazy. No, I think the dumbest thing it was actually inaction. I think there were a lot of things that got made fun of, like the Falcons trading back. I think my least favorite thing a team did is actually the Vikings draft. I don't like the Vikings draft, and it goes back to last year with Dallas Turner. The Vikings give up a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th to move up and grab Dallas Turner, and they, in exchange for that, they missed Jared Verse to the Rams, Chop Robinson to the Dolphins. One of those players or Dallas Turner falls to them. So the Vikings enter this draft without many picks. They take Donovan Jackson like 24th. He's a guard out of Ohio State. Yeah. It seems like inoffensive, right? The next pick is the Texans collecting 2/3 to move back like 8 spots to the Giants with Jackson Dart. The pick after that is the Rams getting next year's first from Atlanta to move back 20 spots. And I don't think a lot of people came out of this like, what are the Vikings doing? But I'm like, what are the Vikings doing? Why, you're giving up a 3rd, 4th, 5th to get the 3rd best edge rusher in that 8-pick span, and then you're not taking one of those 2 trades? I think we always say Vikings, analytically oriented. I actually think it's those 2 drafts I think were very poorly run outside of getting J.J. McCarthy.
I think that's fair to say. We do have a super chat question, long-term question here. Do you think there's a better chance of 3+ players in this class will be able to contribute this season, or one of the receivers from last year being able to develop and play a role under the new staff? That would be Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. I don't mean to be negative. I think I might go with like 3 players from this year's class.
Well, the kicker and long snapper, that's 2.
Those guys, yeah. Well, absolutely, yeah. If Joe Cardona's out of the picture, then you got 2 right there. Then you only need 1 more. I mean, I actually still think that Jalen Polk and Javon Baker could do something. But just the fact that they drafted Kyle Williams in the 3rd round, I think tells you a little bit what they think of Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. Because if they had full confidence that one of those guys or both were going to be contributors this year, I don't think they take a wide receiver in the 3rd round. But the fact that they viewed that position just like Patriots fans do and a lot of like the media and outside media do tells me that they're like, all right, we'll see what we can get out of these guys, but there's really no guarantee.
Thoughts? Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
So the long snapper pick, which I keep making fun of, but is Joe Cardona retiring or what?
We have no indication of that. He also signed the football, which the more I list player names off, just becomes more and more enticing and exciting as we try to raffle this off. But look, he's expensive. He's getting older. Yeah. He's now a holdover twice, Belichick to Mayo, Mayo to Vrabel. And it's not like the idea was to get out all of the guys the old regime loved, but there's enough of a pattern here that like there are no sacred cows here, and certainly not the long snapper, who's the only one in the locker room, by the way, left with the Super Bowl ring. So
that's why I'm asking. I think it's really fitting that if Joe Cardona's gone, he's the last guy who even played. I believe Joe Cardona's the last player that had any overlap with Tom Brady either. Yeah. And so I think that the idea that if he didn't make this team, what a clean beginning to the Vrabel era, which is like, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys the idea that he's following Mayo instead of Belichick is so much better to be the guy after the guy instead of the guy after the guy. And there's something so clean about the break that would not have been clean in the past, but that there's no one left from Brady. The coaches are the ones who remember Brady. It's like Vrabel and Josh McDaniel. The players have no memory of the guy. And I don't know. I think there's an interesting dynamic to that to me.
It does make it interesting that it does feel like, especially when they released David Andrews, that they were like, let's try to get everyone out of the building that was with Bill, has won Super Bowls. This is a clean slate. And like with Cardona, he was the highest paid long snapper at one point in the NFL. He's still on that contract. And I know that from people in the building, he actually had a pretty bad season in 2023. Like there's a lot of like missed snaps. And I'm like, we're not studying long snappers by any means, but like when the guy's like the highest paid in the NFL, you want him to be automatic. He improved quite a bit last season. He actually forced a fumble that led the Patriots to win in week 1 against the Bengals.
Oh, hell
so
yeah.
Like outside of even long snapping, he was pretty decent, but
or you could argue he screwed up the entire season by winning that game.
I'm not gonna
that might be the dumbest thing from last year. Yeah.
It's the worst play of the year.
Yeah. So, Andrew, we've got, you can play a little game with the Dannies before they get out of here.
Oh no.
Ross wants you to play 2 truths and a lie.
Oh boy. So this is a radio bit.
Right on the spot.
Two fake Patriot stats and a lie. I have.
Oh yeah.
Doug, buy me some time here. Look, we had a couple more questions. What's aside from the long snapper talk, which we've now done for I think half of the segment.
That's my.
Was there any?
That's what I was really prepping for, actually. Yeah.
I was looking at a tight end, maybe guys. And Doug and I have debated like the running back positional value thing with Travion Henderson, who I loved as a prospect, but just personally wouldn't have done there. Was there any nitpick you had for this class that everyone loves?
I mean, honestly, just like it's not a nitpick for the class. It's just like, it's such a bummer, obviously, that you're picking at 4 and not 3. I know that's probably just been talked about ad nauseum in New England by this point, but I think it's just a bummer that you didn't have a chance to get one of the generational players. But I overall, again, it was like my favorite class. I think this whole draft, this is not answering your question, but like when I was doing my grades, I was basically just like, the more I like wrote them up, I was like, I just didn't really love this draft class overall. Right. It was just, kind of a really top heavy. There's a couple really good blue chip players. And then the rest of it was like, oh yeah, I could see this guy being a good starter. I could see this guy being a good contributor or whatever. And so when you ask that question, I'm like, well, it's just kind of a bummer that they fell to 4. That's the main nitpick. But otherwise you get starters at like, I think all the first 4 or 5 picks are going to be potentially long-term starters for you guys. Was there any indication? I know that I didn't listen to all the Vrabel pressers, but they're saying Campbell's going to get a shot at left tackle, right?
Yeah, it seems like they're all in on him being a left tackle.
Yeah. Did anyone else offer to die for Drake May? He gets to play left. That's over. I will say to your earlier question that I also didn't answer, Andrew, was the playoffs. I think the short answer is if they're in the playoff conversation, Vrabel alone makes them in the like the coaching alone, I think puts them directly in competition with the Jets and the Dolphins for a wild card. And like, obviously probably not, but I think that there is a Washington-esque, a Texans 2 years ago-esque ability, because I think that you can never properly rate what it's like to be one of the 5 or 6 best coach teams in the NFL. So I'll never say never to that.
There we go. Andrew, have you got your 2 truths and a lie, or do I have to buy you more time?
I'm going through old ones in my notes, and I have give me one more minute, and then we'll get.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I have fake Patriot stats and real ones. Can I give you a stat? Can I say something and you guys guess if it's true or not?
Sure.
Oh, turn it around on him. Go for it.
The Brady Belichick Patriots won the AFC East, or I guess rather said, or yeah, the Brady Belichick Patriots prevented other teams from winning the AFC East more frequently than condoms prevent pregnancies.
I'm ready now, and I can't follow that. So I don't know. I don't know what to do next.
That's true. It's bad, yeah.
I think I'm going to say that's a lie.
It's true.
Condoms
are 89% effective.
Let's see if we can get 5 people on the stage real quick. Can we? No.
I had the 2 truths and a lie here.
There we go. We got 5 people. Mina Kimes, welcome.
Hey, what's up, guys? I entered at quite a time.
You really did. Andrew's about to do 2 truths and a lie, so you can play along with this, and then we'll get the Dannies out of here.
All right, really quickly. Number 1, Javon Baker had the same number of catches as the Patriots starting left tackle last year. Drake May had the longest scramble by a white quarterback of the last 5 years.
Okay.
Bill Belichick and Jordan actually met on an airplane.
Oh.
I mean, I think I know the lie.
I'm worried to guess what I think is the lie.
We really put her in a bad spot.
Yeah,
we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that.
Yeah, and Andrew can be the one.
Can I say? I'll just say my answer is the first 2 are true.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Well put, Danny.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
How many did Javon Baker have? 0 or 1?
He had 1.
1.
And so did Vidarian Lowe.
So number 1 was right. Joe Burrow had a longer scramble than Drake May last year. So number 2 was the lie. And I will just continue to say until proven otherwise. Bill and Jordan did beat on an airplane. Okay, we won't talk about it, but that's the story.
Didn't Drake May have the highest EPA per carry of any quarterback, any race? I feel like on a down-to-down basis, his rushing numbers were off the charts.
They were. There was
a whole offense. Yeah. Joe Burrow went for 49 yards, I think, sometime in September. And that held up against Drake. So there you go.
And I think Drake might have some more design carries this year too. If
yes,
Josh McDaniels runs a similar offense, the one that he ran with Cam Newton. So that would be good as well. But Danny and Danny, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to see you guys.
Yep,
Danny.
absolutely.
You can say how classic it is we went 3 minutes over. Thank you.